say good morning to all of the folk on streaming and also those that are rushing around getting ready to leave today. Quite a busy day for some people. So good morning, everybody. This is Gulf Harbour Radio, ZMH 286, Patricia and David. Well, it's not the morning you've got up there in the tropics if you're up in the tropics, but here at Gulf Harbour, well, all I can say is that it's a lot better than yet Mike will be experiencing in Wellington. We actually have it dry at the moment. It's about 90% cloud cover, 15 degrees, so it could be an awful lot worse. I mean, it is June. We've got 6 knots from the southwest, 1009.3 and rising. But boy, that low that came down, per courtesy of you lot up north, came down and it's just below the centre of the North Island now and has absolutely drenched parts of the country. The Napier-Taupo road is closed. Parts of Gisborne have had 200 millimetres in 24 hours. Taranaki hasn't exactly escaped either, but they're used to a lot of rain. Poor old East Coast, though, they had the rain about a week ago, which brought down an awful lot of sort of stuff from the forestry. You know, they come and chop everything down with the trees. They take the main trunk away and leave everything else, which just swamped down the hill in the last rain, and in fact caused a lot of damage to a farmhouse and various bridges, and just made a hell of a mess in the area. But this low is something else. Boy, it's moving down. It's in the lower half of the North Island at the moment, bringing a lot of rain to the east coast, in particular Masterton to Wellington and Marlborough and Kaikoura today. So heat wave, you'll be enjoying not being there, but boy, it's a lot of rain in the area. So we should be thankful here that it's not wet, because it's a day out for me today. Wednesdays is a gym day. Not that it really matters, but I do have to get to the car. All right, well, of course, the big news overnight and yesterday was the meeting between President Trump and Mr. Kim, and they had a very amiable meeting. No tantrums, wondrous friendship, long handshaking. They did a lot of talking together, very pleasant photographs of them, seeming to enjoy each other's company. I wouldn't say there's stunning progress, but anyway, they have signed a document to return the remains of POWs from the Korean conflict, the ones that died in jail. Mr. Trump said that they would stop war games, and that would be useful. And he's going to invite Mr. Kim to the White House. And they are working towards denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. So all is going very, very well, way better than expected. Of course, a lot will depend on what happens next, particularly with respect to how China reacts to all of this, because it's assumed that China won't take too well to the US being a little closer to the Koreas. But anyway, that's what's happened, and that's about all you could read about in the newspaper today. So they managed to make what I've just summarised in, I think, less than 1 minute, last several pages in the newspaper.
They've outdone themselves.
And yes, they have outdone themselves, says David.
Real news.
But needless to say, there's nothing much you can get on any of the news sites around the world other than that at the moment. So quite a lot of happenings around the country today. We've got quite a few people leaving from New Zealand. So Iron Maiden, good luck to you. They're leaving here to get to Tonga. Unfortunately, those that know Moonfish, they had a bit of bad news yesterday. They have to not go today because they've got to replace a shroud that was found yesterday. But way better to find it at the dock than out at sea, because that's a very useful thing to keep the mast up. So Mango Moon, good luck to you. They're off to Tonga. Eagle's Wings are on their way. In fact, they left yesterday, so they're heading up to Vanuatu, Toot Sweet, to get there quickly, but they normally move very rapidly anyway. And it sounds a beautiful day up there. I just talked to Diego up there in Ranby. He's at Catherine Bay. Light breeze from the east and 26 degrees scattered Q. So all is nice there. I'll tell you what Eagle's Wings have got, and this was not too long ago for those that are leaving now. They are, as I mentioned, they left yesterday. They got chased out with a little bit of a squall, but 15 to 20 when they left, 1 to 2 metre seas. They have now got about 9 knots from the west-southwest, and the bar is 1011. So pretty decent conditions, partly cloudy. They had a bit of strong winds, but otherwise going pretty well. So they're going to get a bit of easting in on their way up to Vanuatu. And Bill Liberation has arrived in Savu Savu, where they've got no wind, of course. It's so sheltered in there, it's a bit hard to know what's going on outside. 50% cloud cover. And a nice day yesterday it was in Tonga. Obsession are reporting this morning that it's sort of in the northern quadrant, more northeast, 5 to 10, bit cloudy, 80% down there at Tonga Tapu. So pretty decent conditions up there with you guys. Haven't heard from for a long time. Hope all is well with you guys, Ron. Anyway, I'm going to throw it open to see if we have any other reports. Please call. And outside Australia on the way from Fiji to Vanuatu. Tanner, go ahead. I've got good copy, enough to certainly take it all down. Go ahead.
We have 13 knots east southeast, 1.5 meters southeast and 12.
If we had 8.2 knots with 13 knots of east-southeast, we would think all well was on board too. Yeah, really good conditions. Sometimes I look at these reports and I think, oh, it might be nice to have a catamaran. All right, outside Australia is heading to Tanna from Fiji, as I mentioned, and out there it's 13 knots of east-southeast wind. So pretty good conditions, 1821 and 17424 east. Only 1.5 meters southeast swell, a bit cloudy. And I'm just looking here, it'll sort of come and go during the course of the day. Should be reasonably clear actually for most of the time, so I suspect you're going to have it clearing as the day goes by. So all well on board. That's great. All right. Anything else over?
No, mate. The figure's starting to fire off the first hour since it's over.
Sorry, what was that again?
I think the cloud's starting to burn off and it's over.
Yeah, it does look pretty clear ahead of you for a good 24 hours by the look of it. Okay. And, David's looking at me. I'm not allowed to make comments on the weather. I have to be the radio technician. So cancel that. He'll tell you that shortly.
Oh, just that your crystal ball. I didn't know you had one.
Oh, yeah, it's amazing what I've got here. All right, we'll clear with outside Australia. And is there anybody else? Below me. Now we're down to the deep south of the Lau group. Good morning, Trevor and Jan.
Yeah, good morning, David and Patricia. Yes, report from Kelowna. It's about 50% cloud cover, very light northerly style.
Yeah, how many boats there at the moment?
There might be 4 or 5 including us.
Oh, okay. Yep, I know a couple of them. So, yep, we've got Elsie on there. Good morning, you guys. And Amazing Grace, I think. So, a couple more maybe.
Which is one true?
Wind, David, is a light northeast. Is that what you've got on your models? I think he's looking at the French model. He likes the French model down that area. It seems to tie in with you guys' reports a lot better than anything else.
Actually, no.
And good morning to Fluenta, who are also heading out towards Tonga today. Clear with, you're not getting that light nor'easter. Well, they might have a bit of land effect. All right, we'll leave him to mull over that, Trevor. Anybody else? Oh, I think I heard a light Gulf Harbour. Was that you, Ron? Over?
I firm it
Goodness, your the radio is down a bit today. Maybe you've just turned on and it's warming up. Try again. Oh, okay. You're back down in Kindavu, at Navala, and I'm just looking. Oh, yeah, not too bad a day down there. Maybe a bit on the cloudy side for a while, but there's a trough going straight through. Yes, I see that. All right, but it's not a bad looking one. So I guess you'll be back in the water today, Ron. Good morning to you both. Anybody else? And gracious lady, good morning to you guys. And I've got your report. No, I put that one in yesterday. That you have arrived in Luganville. We actually quite enjoy Luganville. We normally go over on the Ari side. Are you on the one of the Ari mooring balls over? Ah, Roger. Yeah, it's good to be away from the. You have to watch over on the side that you are. A bit of security problems there come up from time to time, so just be sure not to leave too much on deck that you don't want to part with. And I'm sure all will be well. We haven't had any problem. Well, we haven't heard of anything this year, but then we haven't had too many people up there. I think another adventure might still be there. But yeah, just be a little bit careful there. And I do have the message that you're going to want to get to the banks Friday or Saturday, so we'll certainly be looking at that. Over. I'm going to need some help with that. Your signal, of course, is fairly light with me. Something about today. Could we look at Luganville today? It might be that will answer the question. We'll look at Luganville today. You're at the worst end of the trough, actually. So I'm just going to give David a minute here. But if that wasn't the question, then I'm going to need to have a help with somebody else for a relay. So just say what you just said again about today. Over. Okay, 100% cloud cover and rain overnight. It's just borderline for me. So yeah, I can see we would have had rain overnight. And
Trough that runs right through the bank.
Yeah, it goes right through the bank. So you won't be going for a few days. It's only Wednesday. You certainly wouldn't want to go up there now. It can really get quite snotty in the banks. I can assure you from experience. Boy, can it get snotty up there in the banks. We arrived in the middle of, we came down from the Marshall Islands into Solar. And boy, the last 48 hours we were screaming along in torrential rain and wind. And when we arrived in Solar, it was not much better for a while. And it's good entertainment when you are in Solar, folks, to go to the airport, because the planes come in and they have to be real quick because the weather there can change in about 20 minutes. And so a plane might get in and it has trouble stopping on a sodden grass runway, and then they have to get people out with an awful lot of luggage, because usually people go down to Luganville or Port Vila and come back with an awful lot of stuff. And then they have to get the next lot in. And the days we were there, they always had patients going to hospital. So it was quite difficult and time consuming, but they would basically throw everybody in the aeroplane and taxi off with the the rain cloud coming right behind them. It was really quite exciting. So, and it's a good walk to go to the airport from where you've anchored, and you might have good luck in seeing the famous shoulder crocodile. All right, so we'll definitely be covering that and getting you up there with conditions that are not like they are at the moment. Okay, clear with Gracious Lady. Is there anybody else?
The winds are not overly strong, but it's still
Yeah,
tropical.
David's just muttering that the winds are not overly strong to go north, but it's just visibility's not all that great. And
You got fire gusts.
yeah, there'll be the odd gusts and so on. But it's only Wednesday, and I think you said you were wanting to go Friday or Saturday. So we'll leave you be for the time being. And
Right.
folks, don't get worried about picking up the microphone. It is not difficult to do. You just pick it up in one hand and push on the old key and say hello. And that's not all that difficult, and it makes life an awful lot more interesting for us here at Gulf Harbour Radio. And it tells people who might be coming in your direction what the weather is like, and that's what we aim to try and do here. The best reports are the actual reports from you people, and if you don't tell us what they are, then you're not really playing your part in the morning weather net. And that's what it's all about, exchanging information. Such as Heatwave have just done, where they are at Caliphysia Reef, which is interesting. Remember that rather well for when, what was it, Woodstock went on the reef at Caliphysia. Sunny, the wind is northeast 5 to 10, so a really good time to be there and interesting diving. 20% cloud cover and calm seas.
I'll say something.
There's been quite warm temperatures in Tonga. It's 25 there at the moment, but I noticed some of your reports have been up as high as 30 during the day. So it's Tonga has been the place to be so far this season. And David wants the microphone, which
No,
I will give him. It can wait. But I wanted to tell folk about what the weather is like in the Bay of Islands in the northern Lao. Whistler reporting it's calm, 20%. So it's pretty nice there as well, 26 degrees with all of the ARC boats enjoying that as well. All right, I'm going to pass the microphone now. It's time for the weather roundup.
Right, good morning. And on that subject of getting on the microphone and telling us what your conditions are, it really isn't just to help me, but all of you who are getting your grids and whatnot, really, it's a good, if you're interested, look at your grid. It doesn't matter if you're at the same location that the person who's talking is, but jot down his location and conditions, wind speed and direction, and then look at your grids and see if there's agreement there. That's the one way that you're able to judge how good the grid is going to be out to the future. Now, one thing I'm going to do when I'm done here with my normal report is I'm going to go over, I think, the analysis that I did on models. I think probably those of you who are heading north haven't quite left yet, so maybe you can pick up on this as well in the streaming. But we'll start, first of all, at 500 millibar. And the shortwave trough, well, it's directly over New Zealand. And we've got a weak ridge that's over the Tasman. And of course, underneath the trough lies our very well wrapped up depression. That's spinning away, bringing cloud and showers to New Zealand. New Zealand's pretty well soaked by now. But areas that are getting the most rain are the areas that really don't need the rain. And the areas that do need the rain aren't getting as much as they would like. So it's a typical situation that we see here all the time in this country. Now, the upper ridge to the west is supporting a pretty weak surface ridge, and that's putting very cold Antarctic air over New Zealand, especially Gulf Harbour Radio, where thankfully we have our nice fireplace. Now, a few of you left for the islands yesterday, as Patricia said, yesterday afternoon, and a slug are leaving today as we understand it. And most of the destinations are Fiji or Tonga. A few are going to Vanuatu and none to Newcal that we're aware of. Now, by Friday of this week, our surface ridge, the one I just talked about, starts to organize itself into a weak high, and it'll be due north of New Zealand, and the central pressure roughly 1024 millibar. So a very nice, mellow high that's sitting there. Now, also on Friday, we have a new and a very nasty depression that is just entering the Tasman. This beast, I'm going to call it a beast because it's proud to be 985 millibar just as it's entering the Tasman. So it's pretty nasty. And it's also large in area, as by then the cyclonic winds from the storm are actually going to reach New Zealand. Now, the Wednesday yachts, the ones going today, you all should be at 25 south by late Sunday, the way I reckon things. Now, the winds there will be holding nicely, I'd say south-southeast or thereabouts for the Fiji Tonga boats and southeast for Vanuatu boats. By Monday, which is the 18th, we'll see mostly easterlies for everybody as you're heading north. Light to moderate, it'll be in the 15 knot range, I think. And there'll be some convective activity here too. Now, as you head north, there will be areas of light wind, and you really need to maintain your target speed. I totally encourage getting that motor going and keeping your speed up so that you get up to the islands before the winds do shift to a not pleasant direction. Now, it's Tuesday morning when the next problem is going to arise particularly for the Vanuatu yachts as the winds turn northeast, and they're going to be feeding a cold front that's just about reaching New Caledonia by then. So that's Tuesday. So that gives you a while to get up there, and you should at least get up to Anisham, hopefully before that time period. Now, the Tonga yachts by then should have made Tonga Tapu at least, and the Fiji yachts, the fast ones, might have made it by then. The little bit slower ones will be close. Maybe not there yet, but pretty close. So winds at that point for the Kendavu area will be east, tending east-northeast. So they're starting to back so that things might be a little unpleasant, but anyway, not bad. Light to moderate, 15 to 20, and possibly some convective activity at that point. So both the Vanuatu and Fiji yachts may consider putting in some easterlies in your plan to account for this wind shift later on. Now, by Wednesday, which is the 20th, the new front reaches Vanuatu, and the low rides right over New Zealand. Another wet and miserable day, but well, it's winter, so that's to be expected. So that's Wednesday the 20th. And really looking ahead, the next front to hit New Zealand is estimated to be, still looks like Monday the 25th. There won't be any departures then. It's nasty, headwinds, no point. So those that missed today's window may have to wait quite possibly 2 more weeks for another one to pop up. That's nice or reasonable at least, but you never know. So stay in touch with us, and we'll tell you what happens. Things do change fairly quickly. So looking at the islands now, our seemingly constant trough is running over the Solomons, as usual. Branches near Vanuatu. One branch goes right over the top part of Vanuatu, while the other branch continues on to Fiji and then to southern Tonga. So for Tonga now, starting there, particularly Tonga Tapu, the weak trough, and it is weak, is bringing cloud and showers off and on. Only scattered cloud for the Hapais and Vavau. The winds by lunch look to be easterlies in the, we'll call it the 15 knot range. but east-northeast to northeast for the Hapais. Now tomorrow it picks up a little bit for Baval. We'll call it east to east-northeast, about 15 to 20, and about the same for the Hapais. And Friday we may see a shift to the southeast, and those winds will be light to moderate, not bad at all. I'll give you a barometer check at 5 o'clock this morning. Take a look at your barometer. The airfield up in Baval is reporting 1013 millibars. So look at your barometer and make your adjustments if you need to. And the Hapais, looking at Pilo Levu, the airport there in the Hapais, they're also reporting 1013 millibar. Okay, over to Fiji. The continuance of our weak trough is bringing cloud and showers for much of the group, not all of it. We've got some sunshine in some areas. Might improve a bit tomorrow, so we'll call it mostly fine with isolated showers for then. Directional convergence is quite evident today as we see easterlies over the northern and central Lao, and those easterlies are pushing to the west a bit, and they're colliding with southeast winds for the middle of the Koro Sea and all the way west to the Osawas. So southeast winds there hitting easterlies, creating this convergence and supporting that trough. This is a weak effort, believe me. There's not a lot in this, so I wouldn't get worked up about it. Winds 10 to 15 for most areas. Obviously, if you're in a squall or quite a bit of rainfall on a particularly large cloud, the winds are going to be much stronger. Now, Vanuatu's northern bits are under the receiving end of the trough we talked about. Satellite imagery shows rain cloud from the banks, actually down to Malakula and over to Pentecost. South of there, just scattered cloud. It's much better. So expect showers, I think, for Luganville. Maybe early morning only for Port Vila, then it gets better. Winds for the entire group, more or less easterlies in the open water, about 10 to 15 knots. Some areas get up to about 20. And expect more wind, though, on Thursday, east-southeast, maybe 20 or so for the southern half in particular. Now over to Newcal, it looks pretty good, just scattered cloud. There's cloud around Newcal, but Newcal, the southern lagoon part on satellite this morning looked pretty good. Consolidated bands of cloud, though, over the loyalties for anybody that's there or thinking about going there. So not so hot for that area. Back to the southern lagoon, light to variable winds by lunch, probably less than 10 knots. Chance of showers maybe for Ile de Pan. By dinner, southerlies for that area, around 10 knots, and then a shift tomorrow. I think we'll see southeast about 10 in that range, so not bad at all for Newcal. And so that's what I've got. And so what I'm going to do now, and then when I'm done with this, if you've got questions or comments on the weather, you can come ahead. But this is a model analysis that I completed yesterday. So what happened, or what I did, was on 5 June, I evaluated 5 models for their ability to forecast wind direction and speed accurately and consistently for 2 dates, for 9 June and for 11 June. So this was on the 5th of June. I looked at 9 June and 11 June, and this is what the models were trying to say. Now, the models I used were GFS, ECNWF, UK Met, and predict winds, what they call PWG and PWE. I used their 50 kilometer. This is the free stuff that you get. You don't want to pay. So these are the free models that they put out. And PWG and PWE, again, I have no idea what they really are, but such as it is, a lot of people are using them. Now, I picked 3 positions to look at the wind direction and speeds. I looked at 30 south and 175 east, 25 and 180, and 20 and 175. So on June 5th, all the models were pretty much in agreement for that day, and on 9th of June, or we'll call it about 4 days later, all the models were in relative agreement for 30 and 175 and for 25 and 180. That means that they pretty much agreed with one another and agreed with their prog that they made on the 5th of June. However, the position 20-175 did have some discrepancies. I picked this position, by the way, to represent the tropics. The other positions are subtropical positions. So now for 20 and 175, the models were in relative agreement with each other, but the errors were noted comparing the prog made on 5 June for the 9th. The most accurate models were GFS and ECMWF. They not only agreed with each other, but they agreed with the progs that they made back on the 5th of June for that date. UK Met came in fairly close on the wind speed, but they were 90 degrees off on wind direction, so that wasn't too good. PWG and PWE, they agreed with each other, but were grossly in disagreement on the prog that they made on the 5th of June. In other words, on the 9th, the weather that they called for the 9th on that day, they were in agreement with each other. But if you look at what they said back on 5 June for the 9th, they were grossly in disagreement. On 5 June, they predicted south to southeast 25 to 30, but on 11 June, they forecasted northeast 20. So that's a pretty significant fail. Moving on now to the prog for 11 June, made on the 5th. In other words, this now is about 6 days after the 5th. Most of the models, with some exceptions, were in general agreement for the day. So in other words, on the 11th, what they said the weather was going to be, they all were pretty much in agreement for that. And you would expect that. But looking at the progs for 11 June, the most accurate model was ECMWF. The next was GFS. UK Met did not forecast this far out, so that had to be eliminated from this look-see. And the worst were PWE and PWG. They were definitely not in agreement with the progs that they made. They were not even close to their agreement with each other when the prog was made. That was very strange. Okay, so the summary here is GFS and the EC progs were in general agreement in the subtropics with the forecast day, whereas I would say EC had a bit of an edge on GFS. But the accuracy for both models for the tropical position left a little bit to be desired. So for tropical forecasting, they really are just an idea, especially once you go out 5 or 6 days. Remember that. PWE and PWG, they seem to be fine for 3 days, but they didn't do so well for the longer prognosis. Now, bear in mind, I'm almost done. Bear in mind that this analysis is not statistically meaningful. A model can have an off day, and they often do. Believe me, I've been looking at this for years now, virtually every day. But clearly, if you are looking for accuracy, you will not find it the further out that you push the model. 3 days is probably a reasonable degree of expectation for accuracy, but then things degrade beyond that. And please remember, models are derived using equations for the atmospheric behavior, equations for atmospheric behavior that are not fully understood. So they're based on actual observations, and remember, in data sparse areas, and we've got a lot of those data sparse areas in the Southwest Pacific, there is no data. So what does the computer do? The computer guesses what they are. So also remember that a very early error compounds as time goes forward. So use them beyond 3 days as a guide only. And again, the most reliable ones being ECMWF and GFS. So, for the tropics, well, listen to Gulf Harbor Radio. All right, that's the end of that little summary. I'm going to do this off and on during the season and see how things are going. But that's the story. And I will now pass this over to the chief. So if you have any questions or comments, particularly regarding the weather, come now. And again, before I go, that is why I'll say it again. It's important that we hear from you, and it's helpful again to the rest of the folks out there, because you can do your grid comparison and get a feel for how these grids are doing. Okay, here's the chief.
And it's particularly useful to have those that are at sea, of course, where you don't have the influence of the orographics. So thanks for those reports from at sea. Anybody? Oh, and I wouldn't mind hearing from Rapaki to make sure Shelley and Leroy arrived safely yesterday. Anybody for Gulf Harbour, please call. Trigger. Good morning, Chris. Go ahead. Okay, 95% cloud cover. I guess you won't need the sunscreen for a while. And light winds, so it sounds pleasant. Thank you for that. All right, it sounds like everybody else. Well, I know the folk around the Marsden Cove area are probably waiting for Bruce to arrive. Avalon's another one heading off today. So have a good start, everybody. I think the first 24 hours is always a little bit miserable after lounging around for so long, but you'll soon get your sea legs. All right, this is a Gulf Harbour Radio. Patricia and Dave will be back again tomorrow, of course, same time, same place, 8752 at 7:15 New Zealand time, 19:15 UTC. Cheers, everybody. Have a good day.